All right, guys, this is Joseph back with the Utah Utes Football Digest. And today we are going to be looking at the Utah running back room. The running back room is a very exciting group. Now, this is part of our series breaking down all the different Utah football positions headed into the spring football game. And remember, just like all the other positions, we're going to say who is a bona fide star. Spoiler alert for running back, there's no bona fide stars. A lot of good players, a couple starters, a good chunk of potential starters, which we'll dive all into that. Good amount of solid depth, some deep depth. So we'll talk about them all. We'll talk about them all here, but it should be a ton of fun. Before we dive in, guys, please make sure you smash that like button. That'll help get the video out to more Utah fans and let me know you guys appreciate the content. Um, Please comment down below as well as we dive through this. This is a kind of a controversial group, not controversial in a ton of ways, but in the sense that I think everyone's probably got their own idea of who's a locked in starter, who's not a locked in starter, but could be, who has very little chance of starting, that sort of deal, where I'm excited to hear your guys' opinion on all this. And then if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, like I said, we're doing a whole series on this. We're going to cover every single position group for Utah football heading into the spring game. So if you want to know, like, basically every player on the field, what and who to watch for, this is probably going to be quite a good series for you particularly. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's talk about the Utah running back room. And here we go, guys. The first running back out the gate is Jaylen Glover. Jaylen Glover is a guy that has been on this team for a couple years and has really carved out a role for himself. Last year wasn't an insanely good year for Jaylen, but I do think it was good in a lot of ways where we did get to see what he could do with a good amount of carries. Again, he's a guy of super high hopes that are still there. I still believe he can blossom into an elite runner. But I think right now, from what we saw last year, is a solid starting running back, and definitely a guy that I see being a starter. He is a locked-in starter, in my opinion. I'm excited to have him out there this year. I'm excited for him to be a guy that can be a big playmaker for Utah. Like I said, not the craziest year last year, not a bad year either. I think hopefully this year we see him take a step. Makai Bernard is going to be the next guy. Makai Bernard has been on this Utah team for a while now, and is a guy that I really like and I think has a ton of potential. He's our scat back, third down back, that sort of thing. And with a lot of unproven talent around him, I could see him getting more carries than usual, even and a bigger role as like that every down type of guy. So I see him as a starter. He's not a star for me, but he's definitely borderline there. He is a locked in starter though, and a guy that I do have high hopes for and high potential for. I really like Makai Bernard, and he's a guy that I really think brings a lot to the offense. Okay, next we got Mike Mitchell. And if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you would know I'm a big Mike Mitchell fan. So I made his recruiting video. If you guys are new to the channel, I make recruiting videos on almost all of these guys. And Mike Mitchell's tape was ridiculously good. He was extremely impressive and a guy that I'm really excited to have on this Utah team. Now, he is not a locked in starter, but he is a potential starter for me. He has had a ton of buzz over the past year or so where people keep talking about it like, wow, Mike Mitchell's really good. And it almost sounds as if had they not been, worried about his red shirt, they might have given him more time last year. I mean, that's kind of not true because he could have played quite a bit more and not burned his red shirt. But is what is a guy that I do expect to fight for a spot in this rotation of running backs, and Mike Mitchell, very good. Now, Dijon Stanley, 6 foot 178, very fast, very agile, and a good receiving back. Dijon actually got quite a few reps last year with the Utah team. A guy that, yeah, if you look here, he's a sophomore. He was not able to redshirt last year. So Dijon is a guy, yeah, he got enough reps to burn his redshirt, and he's seen the field quite a bit and even had some plays in some important games. So I view Dijon as a potential starter. I really do. He's a guy that could carve out that third, fourth running back role in this system. There's going to be a lot of running backs involved, and I expect some of these young guys to really have a shot at that. Dijon is not getting much hype behind the scenes, from what I understand. So that's where I'm not quite as hyped on him right now, but I do believe in the talent and I believe in the skill being there. He did look a little small last year, so hopefully he's filled out a bit and looks a little more solid. John Randle Jr., he was one of the 3 4-stars. The two I just mentioned, Mike Mitchell, what's his name? Dijon Stanley and John Randle Jr. were the 3 4-stars. Now, since then, he's gotten very little hype. Some practice team work that I've seen here and there, but very, very little hype. And because of that, I've got him listed as solid depth. Would it be the worst thing in the world if he came in? No. But do I expect him to really compete for a starting position based on what I'm hearing? No. So is what it is there. John Randle looked like a really good player coming out of high school. And if he did get some carries here and there, I would not think it's a bad thing, but not a guy that seems to have enough hype to really work himself into that competition. Next, we've got Charlie Vincent. Now, Charlie Vincent has just been a staple of this Utah running back room for a while, and I'm just going to call it as I see it. Just kind of that, that white dude that isn't making a lot of mistakes, but isn't making a lot of plays either. I think we all know what we get out of Charlie Vincent. A guy that's a solid depth piece. I don't think we want him to have a full role in this offense. And if he earns it, he earns it. I'm just saying, from what we've seen so far, a solid depth piece where if he did need to come in and spell some carries is not a bad thing, but not a guy we want out there all the time for this offense. Next, we've got Anthony Woods. Now, Anthony Woods is the transfer from Idaho. Now, that means he's a beast. If you guys didn't see the film, reminded me a ton of TJ Pledger. Now, I do think when I first saw Anthony Woods, I thought for sure a starter. That was my mindset. I think now, as time's gone on, and I look at the running back room and I look at all the talent in here, I've got him as a potential starter. And this might be a controversial one for some people because they might feel like Anthony Woods is going to be a locked in starter because he transferred and because he looks so good. But I think when you run through all these different players, I don't think there's any for sure put a stamp on it that Anthony Woods is a starter. I'm not saying I don't think it's very realistic that he'll get some carries this year, but I do think this is going to be a tough group. It's not a ton of high-end talent, but it's similar to wide receiver that we talked about a couple days ago, where a lot of talent, and it's hard to make a real informed guess on who the guy is going to be. Then we've got Taj Oberman. I'm going to say that, Oberman. Not familiar with the guy, not a guy that has a ton of hype coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and put him as deep depth. He'll be lower on the depth chart. Hunter Schroeder, same sort of situation where I've got him as deeper depth. He's got some time in the system, but I don't see him being able to carve out a role against all those other running backs. So that's the running back room. Let's talk about it. All right, guys. So that was the Utah running back room. Just to recap it, I've got Jaylen Glover as a bona fide starter, Makai Bernard as a bona fide starter, and then a few other really good players or guys, a lot of ceiling on them that I could see fighting for those potential starter spots. Mike Mitchell, Dijon Stanley, and Anthony Woods. I think those guys are all going to be fighting for potential starter spots. Then solid depth, we've got John Randle Jr., Charlie Vincent, and then we got some deep depth in Taj Oberman and Hunter Schroeder. And I would say this, is there a lot of star power in this room? No. Right? No, that's true. I don't think there's a lot of disagreement there. I can see some of you guys disagreeing with me, like I mentioned in the intro, that what that room actually shakes out to look like, who are the locked in starters, who are the potential starters. But I do think it has so much upside. I think Makai Bernard, like I said, is a borderline star. I think it'd be disingenuous for me to label him a star just because he's good. He's not great, right? That's from what I've seen from him so far. And when I say great, I'm talking about, Cam Rising, Brant Keithy. You guys get what I mean? Like very high end players. Where Makai Bernard is a good to very good player and a guy that I think will be vital to us winning some games and be very important. I think we felt the pain of not having him for stretches last year. So Makai Bernard, a guy I'm excited about, but the whole group, someone really good is going to come out of here. We're going to see someone. Maybe that's Jaylen Glover takes that next step and starts to become that athletic bruiser we really wanted him to be coming out of high school. Not that he sucks now, but he's, let's see him do that sort of deal. So Really exciting group, guys. Please make sure you smash the like button. Also, comment down below. Do you agree with where I have all these guys listed? I want to know your thoughts. And then if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we put out a ton of Utah Utes football content. So if you're into that and stick around for the ride. Also, we got this series going on. We're breaking down every Utah football position headed into the spring game. So it's something, if you like that content, make sure you subscribe so you'll know each day as they get dropped. I'm out of here. Go Utes.